As a podcast host, I've talked with hundreds of facility management and workplace leaders, and last year, we finally took these conversations on the road. Now I'm back with new interviews featuring industry leaders based in Atlanta, Georgia. My guest today is David Epps, Chief Technology Officer at Envision Construction. I've been following David for years as he has shared his passion for cutting-edge technology and innovation in the construction industry. I'm Mike Petrusky, and this is On My Way to Work. All right, David.
Hello, sir.
Nice to meet you in real life.
Likewise.
How are you?
Fantastic.
Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely. Let me get safety here first.
Buckle up for safety.
Absolutely.
The Eptura mobile is on the road. Here we go. So where are we in the greater Atlanta area? We're taking the world tour here this week.
So this is Sandy Springs that we're currently in right now.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's actually a really nice day. It's a great time of year.
Are you an Atlantan, born and raised?
I'm not.
Ah.
I was born in Hawaii, of all places.
Okay.
Lived in California until I was around 10, North Carolina for a stint, and then Florida for middle school, high school, college, and then came up to Atlanta in 2004.
Oh, that's right. I read your bio because I've been connected with you on LinkedIn for a long time. We know each other from the interwebs, but never have had the chance to meet in real life. So, Florida Gator, right?
Florida Gator. Yes, very proud. I'm behind enemy lines up here, so this is Georgia territory.
That's right. SEC
but
ties.
It's still SEC, so I'll still root for the Georgia guys whenever they're there because they're doing well. Florida hasn't been doing so great the past few years, so I'll support my friends.
That's right. And what was your background? Construction management?
I grew up doing construction, house renovations, and then went to school for landscape architecture, actually.
Oh,
and then
interesting.
transitioned to construction management and completed my construction management degree and business degree.
And now you are the Chief Technology Officer at Envision Construction. What does a CTO of a construction company do?
More than I would have ever expected, actually. If you'd asked me what my career path was going to look like 20 years ago, I would never have thought I'd be here, of all places. But anything you can think of technology-wise, anything that plugs in, all software interfaces, both with construction teams, accounting, all the different ecosystem type ideas and all the different softwares and groups that kind of come together and meet together in our company all kind of flow through me. Again, I have touch points in pretty much every aspect of the company, more so than I ever would have expected. I started doing construction and doing 3D modeling and BIM and flying drones and scanning, and then now this has turned into this whole world of all the software integrations and all the different things that all these teams need to do their jobs, to build buildings. So
it's an exciting time. We are all about it here on this mobile podcast. I'm all about learning the complete asset life cycle and some of the ways that data flows from design and construction over through to operations and maintenance.
Sure.
And that's what my audience is interested in. So you're the perfect guest to have in the car today. I'm so excited. And you're a drone pilot.
Drone pilot.
What does it take to be a drone pilot?
More than you would expect, actually. The FAA requires a full-on test, so you have to take an actual test in person, not just an online exam, at a testing facility. They take your picture. It's very legit. A lot of the stuff you learn on that test has nothing to do really with needing to fly drones, from what I've noticed.
Okay. More of a background check. Like, who are we giving permission?
It's a lot of things you would study to do a pilot's exam.
Oh,
frankly.
wow.
It's a lot of things about how you would land a plane at an airport. NOTAM apps and just cloud coverage and a lot of things like that. But it also goes into, what elevation you can fly drones at near different types of airports and different classes of airports. And so there's a lot of information there, but there's no actual flying test. It's just a written test.
Oh, you don't have to pass
you don't have to actually have a driving test.
The video game kind of moment of truth.
So it's interesting. You get your license to go and fly. Well, quite frankly, it's more interesting because the average person doesn't have to have a license legally. But to fly commercially, I have to have a license.
Yeah.
So any Joe Schmo can go out there and fly a drone around and he's fine. But if I pick up a drone and fly for commercial purposes, I have to have my FAA license.
Oh, there you go.
Part 107. So I've had it for around 8 years now.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video of you doing the drone pilot thing, and it's really cool to think about the ways that technology, among others, can really increase efficiencies in the construction process, then also capture a lot of data, right? To allow then those further downstream to be better.
It's a different vantage point, right? So we've always had phones in our pockets that can take pictures, but this is a whole different vantage point that you can see the site, you can see logistics and plan, you can look at safety concerns, you can evaluate everything from a much more holistic overall view than you would just sitting on the ground, right? And you can see a lot of things that you never would see just by walking around the building. So you combine that with, ground cameras and things like that, and you get this holistic view of the entire job site, which is really helpful because the more you know, the more you can prepare for and avoid problems.
Really fascinating. And I saw a video you created for LinkedIn recently of you walking a building with a LiDAR piece of equipment. What does that do?
So LiDAR is light distance and ranging. It's laser scanning. Think about how a dolphin sends a ping out, sees how far away a rock is. That's echolocation. So that's using sound. And it says how far away that rock is, meters, feet, however much that is. LiDAR is the same concept, but it uses light instead. And it's a lot faster. So every, depending on which unit you're using, you can capture up to 1 million points a second or more, depending on which the unit is. So it's basically spraying digital points every direction. And every one of those points has a measurement, an XYZ location to it. So you can essentially survey everything that you can see very, very quickly. So it's a really fast tape measure, is all it is.
It's a fast tape measure.
It's a really fast tape measure, but it measures everything. So if you could imagine, if I can measure everything around me, what could I actually do with that information? Well, there's a lot of ways that we actually use it in construction. The video that I posted was actually walking around an existing site, capturing existing as-built data that we're then going to use to build onto. We're actually going to renovate those buildings and build a facility next door to it. So I was capturing what the existing site looked like. And why is that important? Well, a lot of times you'll get existing data from buildings, or maybe we don't have drawings at all for buildings, right? But these blueprints may be 50 or 100 years old. They're probably wrong.
Yeah.
They're old. Maybe they've built onto the building since they were created, so they're outdated. But most of the time they're just wrong. they're supposed to be called as-built drawings, right? I've always jokingly called them as should have been built drawings because that's really what the contractors were supposed to be building.
Sure.
But you have no idea that's actually how they built it, and most of the time it wasn't how they built it. So we go in and laser scan pretty much every facility that we build or renovate because we want to have that data to use from a starting point, right? So there's no surprises later on. Otherwise, you run into we thought that the column was here and it's actually 2 feet this way, and then you have to react to that.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
The more we can use technology to be proactive and solve problems before they become problems, the better off we are, the better off our clients are, the more seamlessly projects are built. So that's really my intention, is to become less of a problem fixer, which, I've been doing that my entire career. I come in usually when things are already bad in some way and trying to figure out some tool to figure out how bad they are, right?
Right.
But the more and more I've learned about technology, the more I can use these tools to proactively avoid situations from arising in the first place.
So much promise. Yeah, so many opportunities.
There's so much out there.
Leverage that technology and make our world better. I can't wait to hear more about it. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, so this is our chance to get to know each other a little personally.
Sure.
Again, I know your professional credentials are off the charts, but David, I'd like to know about the personal side. I ask about music on my podcast, as you've heard. What kind of music do you listen to? What gets you fired up? What gets you excited?
I honestly listen to a large mix of stuff. I grew up, my father was actually, both my parents are musicians.
Oh, really?
So they, my dad played a lot of percussion music. He played with Santana, Beach Boys, that whole genre. So I grew up around music my entire life.
That's awesome.
I can't play. I can actually read music, but I can't play music very well. I can pick it up and kind of like play pretty much anything, but I can't actually look at a set of music and actually read it.
Oh, interesting.
So that's one thing that I've never been able to do.
But it is in the DNA.
It's in the DNA. I have a musical ear, so I was always able to kind of pick up pretty much any instrument my dad had or my mom had and replicate what they're doing, but I could never sit down like my grandmother could at a piano and read music and actually play, right?
Traditional sense.
I would memorize songs sometimes to play just because I wanted to play the piano, but I could never read the music, so that was always a limitation. But growing up, I always liked oldies rock. I've evolved into all sorts of things: hip hop, EDM, classic rock.
Nice.
But a whole range. It depends on what I'm doing.
But you don't sing. You've
I
told me clearly.
I'm a terrible singer. That's the last thing you want from me. I'm really good behind a computer, and I can talk about it all day long, but I can't carry a tune better than anything like a Backstreet Boy. So
we won't be harmonizing, everybody. Sorry. So remind me, how long have you been in Atlanta?
I've been in Atlanta since 2004.
Okay,
I came
so
here
quite a bit.
just out of college. Yeah, it's actually most of my life I've been here. Everybody says, where are you from? And I always say not here, but I've probably been here longer than anywhere I've lived. So
Okay.
I guess I'm kind of a Georgian now.
That's good. A lot to be proud of down here. I'm getting to know the area. I've been driving around this week, and the Eptura North American headquarters is right here in Buckhead.
It's certainly growing
And
a
it's
lot.
been, it's been a journey because there's so many different types of
It's a very patchy city.
areas. Yeah.
It's not like New York or one of these, Chicago, where it's like one big city. You got downtown, and then you got Midtown, then you have Buckhead, and then now you have all these different outskirts kind of growing up. And everybody says they live in Atlanta, but most people actually live outside of the perimeter, but it's easier to say Atlanta. So,
Have you become a Braves fan or sports fan? Okay.
Yeah. I don't follow sports much. Some people get really, really into it.
Sure.
I'll kind of put it on the background, or if people want to go watch a game and have a drink, I'll do that.
Beautiful
So
stadium.
there's a lot. Beautiful stadium. Falcon Stadium. I actually worked in the Falcon Stadium back when I was working with Holder Construction. Yeah.
Is that the Mercedes-Benz Stadium? Yeah. Iconic. That's awesome.
It's a great project.
And you got the home of Coca-Cola and Home Depot and Chick-fil-A. How many other brands are based here in Atlanta?
I actually worked on the World of Coca-Cola project.
Did you?
Downtown.
So you got your hands all over.
And our new office is right across the street from the current Coca-Cola headquarters, the whole bottling plant right there. So yeah,
that's amazing.
But yeah, Atlanta's got a little bit of everything. You got a lot of good sports teams. It's the largest and most active international airport in the world.
Yes.
So a lot of travel comes in and out of here, but it's a great area.
So David, the idea that I'm trying to get my head around is this complete asset life cycle and the way technology impacts it. And I know you have a lot of experience. I saw another video you did with Autodesk years ago, and I have a recent interest in the Autodesk Tandem Digital Twin product and the promise of that capturing the data needed for my friends in the world of facility management and operations to better maintain facilities. Speak to that a little bit. What do you think of the potential there for technology to really make things better?
I think that, so AEC, the AEC industry in general, has always been behind of, pretty much every other industry. Until the past 10 or so years, I've kind of watched a really big influx of technology overall. We use a lot of these tools during the construction process, right? We use them during pre-con, we use them during construction, and then all of a sudden we have this, either, depends on the project, but you might have a 3D model that's really, really complex, really, really detailed. You can take it actually to an as-built level a lot of people call them BIM model as-builts. It's not really as-builts either. I mean, same kind of concept as should have been built drawings, right? You don't actually know that it was put in place that way.
Right.
I have gone to the point of using LiDAR, using laser scanning to scan a project once it's complete and during the process, and going back and actually updating the model to reflect what's truly out there.
Okay.
So that is, in my mind, a true as-built model, not just a coordination model, which is what a lot of folks refer to as a as-built model.
Right.
But the point is, we spent all this time and effort to create this digital world that's just meant for the project building cycle, and then a lot of folks don't actually do anything with it after that. We'll put it on a disk, or we'll email it to somebody, or we'll have a link to this file that the owner never actually touches. And I think that's a huge waste, because there's a lot of opportunity to use these tools and use this digital data for the entire life cycle of the building. Right?
Yeah.
As you're talking about, the building's going to be maintained for 50 plus years, but it took 2 years to build it. We have all this effort put into creating this digital world, and then we just let it die. But you don't have to. I was on a project for Progressive Insurance, a data center, back in 2005, 2006. I went out to Colorado for a year, and we went through the whole coordination process. The owner loved it, and they said, "Hey, is there any way I can do anything with this at the end of this job?" And we didn't really have an answer to that, because a lot of the FM tools that exist out there right now did not exist back then. And so I literally it was a very basic way of doing it, but I used Navisworks, and I hyperlinked PDFs of owner's manuals, warranty information, maintenance stuff, any kind of information that those maintenance guys would want that are going to be maintaining that data center at the end of the project. They just gave me a list of what they needed, and I would just go to a generator and tag and hyperlink directly to all these files that they wanted, and then show them how to use it. And so at the end of the project, I really didn't know how to deliver that to them, so I just literally handed them the whole desktop.
Wow.
And said, "Hey, here's your FM tool, right?"
Right. Here's your BIM.
And they were ecstatic about it, because it was, nobody had ever really done that before.
Wow.
And it was a tool that they could, these guys are going to be managing this building, and now they can go, instead of having a filing cabinet full of information, they can go and just click on this generator and get whatever they want out of it.
Exactly.
And I showed them how to take that information, use it, and then maintain it. I'm not sure if they ever did anything with it, but that was kind of like facilities management 1.0 that I experienced, and that was almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I've watched that concept evolve a lot over the years. It actually turned into a service that we provided at Holder to clients, because we sold that as hey, this worked really well, this job, and we created this whole software platform that we would sell to clients.
Really
and
interesting.
It worked really well. And then obviously companies like yourself and companies like FM Desk Talk and Archibus and all these other options started popping up because they realized, hey, there's a benefit here.
Yeah.
There's something here that nobody's doing, so maybe we should start creating this service. So yes,
That's exciting.
The long story short is yes, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for leveraging all these tools beyond the completion of a job site, and once the project's done. And I think that's really where the big wins are going to come moving forward in the future.
So fast forward to today, here we are, 2024. Where do you think the industry is, and whose responsibility is it to maybe leverage some of these tools in a more effective way? Because I've always heard that depending on the silo you're operating in, you're less inclined to see the bigger picture. And is it the FM department's job to force their way into the earlier stages of a project, or is it the AEC folks need to bring in their friends in operations earlier? Or what would you say in a practical way could be done?
I think that in a panacea world, the owner would drive all of that, and they would see the value in the FM tool and pull together the right people to build the job, and basically say, hey, I need Mr. Architect, you're going to be providing this model early on with the right details that the construction team needs to accurately quantify it, and then take it through construction, and then provide me back with a true as-built condition at the end of the job. That's the panacea world, right? The problem right now is that everybody uses technology just enough to get their job done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay right now, because that's, they're at least using it, but they're using it in a way that doesn't really help or is advantageous to the rest of the team members. And again, that's because they're doing it for themselves, right? So, for instance, a lot of architects will create a model because the final product is 2D drawings.
Right.
The owner's paying for 2D documents, right? So they'll create a model as a shortcut to create those, because most of the drawings you see these days are actually created from Revit models. And so they might use a floor tool for a roof because it's easier to draw than drawing a roof, right? But it looks the same in plan view when they print it out. And so it's just easier for them just to use some of these tools incorrectly, but it's faster for them. But they don't care, because that gets their job done. It checks their box, right? And so at the end of the day, that's what they're doing, because their fees are getting scrimped, and they're getting cut away as well. They're doing the best they can to keep the doors open. So in a better world, they would model extremely accurately and perfectly, so that me as a contractor, selfishly, I can take that model and click export, and I can count all the stuff that's in it, and I don't have to have a pre-construction team going through and counting everything.
Right. Okay.
So but the idea there is, at some point you're going to have an owner that's going to say and realize that, and say, all right, I'm going to pay the architect a little bit more and pay the contractor a little bit less, and the architect can then provide an actual model that the contractor can use. So it saves the contractor time, architect gets paid a little bit more, and ultimately the model reflects more accurately what the building is going to be. But it takes an owner who understands that, and that's the challenge right now, and understands that paying a little extra to create and have this long enough vision to where they realize the benefits downstream of that FM tool, right? They have to understand that they're going to get something out of it. Because then you throw the curveball of like developers in who may just be flipping the building anyway. And so they don't really care as much about 50
That
years from now. They
vision.
care about the lowest common denominator number that they can get to sell this building in 5 years. Right,
Well,
so
we
there's
can
all
dream,
sorts of,
David. We can dream on, like Aerosmith. Speaking of classic rock, you want to sing a little "Dream On"?
Dream on.
Dream on, dream until your dreams come true. Bam,
Yes.
bam, bam. Dun,
That is
dun,
the
dun,
panacea.
dun, 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 dun. Hey, so David, love the tagline at Envision Construction when I was doing my research. Tell us what it is and what it means.
So our tagline is "Construction is broken and we're fixing it."
Love it.
We are a group of folks who've been around the industry for a long time, who all kind of gotten tired of the status quo and tired of accepting the inefficiencies and the ways that this industry has always been plagued with waste and miscommunication and schedule inefficiencies and just problems that have just constantly plagued this whole industry that we've all kind of accepted and made okay. We're all just kind of okay with the way things have gone, but fundamentally we're not. We just kind of do it because nobody cares to change, and everybody's still making money. So our whole goal is to attack this industry a little bit differently. First principles kind of mindset. Look at everything from a different angle, right? How would you do it if you never knew how to do it in the first place?
Yeah.
So we're trying to approach every aspect of construction in a different way, and technology is a big component of that. How can we use these tools to build better, to plan better, to avoid these challenges and these problems? We know that you're not going to wave a magic wand and technology is going to build the building, right? That's not the reality here. We always know that. Robots aren't going to build these buildings anytime soon, but if we can shave a point here and there off, across multiple trades, all of a sudden you're saving lots and lots of money for both ourselves and for our clients. And so ultimately we want to provide a better product, both during the construction process and then all the way through completion, so we can deliver these clients a tool that they can use ideally for asset management. They can actually use this for facilities management at the end of the day.
You know what I call that, David? You're an FM innovator. That was my first podcast years ago, and it evolved into what it is today, but that's exactly right. Innovation, disruption. It doesn't have to be a huge breakthrough tomorrow. You don't have to invent the new iPhone, but you can make little changes, incremental changes, that really will have an impact in the big picture when we look back.
I mean, I've been trying to change everything for years, and I kind of realized that it's never going to all change. I've been trying to get rid of paper on job sites. Then I realized, well, somebody's going to need paper. And so I stopped trying to change everything holistically, and I've tried to figure out ways to just figure out what's keeping these guys up at night. What are the challenges the superintendent has? What are the challenges the project manager has? And can I do something or help them in some way with some sort of technology, whether that's a software, some tool that I have, some workflow. And if you can help somebody save 5-10 minutes a day, every day, all of a sudden there's an hour. There's 2 hours.
There it is.
They can get a little bit more work done. They can go home with their families, and ultimately that's my goal, is to insert technology as much as possible into this very inefficient world that we live in, that we call construction. And and at some point hopefully improve it enough to where it makes an impact.
David, I went to my first Autodesk University this past fall in Vegas, baby. Vegas.
Oh, Vegas.
I was blown away. You been there?
I used to love Vegas until I started going every year for conferences, and then I got less interested in Vegas. It was, it's awe-inspiring and shocking. You first go out there, and then
right
after a while, you're like, I want to go home.
Exactly.
This is a lot.
And a good bad Chris Angel mind freak magic show will get you inspired if you haven't seen that. He's like Elvis in his latter years.
Absolutely. And they got every Cirque du Soleil you can think of.
Yep. But Autodesk University. So I went my first time, was blown away. Just the amazing kind of technology and tools. There's in so many industries, not just construction.
There's a lot.
What were you talking about when you used to make your appearances there and speak at these conferences?
I think my first AU was in 2007. I don't remember if I spoke that year. I know I've spoken in there probably 10 different times over the past 15 years. But it's all, it always depends on what the session, what was hot topics at the time. I'd done stuff on 4D simulations and scheduling. I've done laser scanning, drones, 3D modeling, simulations, augmented reality, all these kind of different tools that I use. And over the years, each one has kind of had its stint of what's popular at that point, So I'd always kind of gear my classes around what was new and interesting.
Sure.
Just so the class would get accepted, quite frankly. But yeah, that's just kind of evolved over the years, and that's kind of evolved into what's really interesting for folks and what they want to hear more about. AI has been a big hot topic over the past few years, and
there you go.
The digital twin concept has been popping up, and all these different catchphrases keep getting hot, and so that and 15 other different conferences I've been presenting at over the past my career.
I imagine. It's been a lot.
But conferences are great. They give you an opportunity to kind of really get out there and see all the new, latest and greatest tools that are available. You got to be careful though, because you can get caught up in all the different tools that are available, right?
Yeah.
You can get distracted by all these things all these shiny toys out there. Early on in my career, I would see a drone and I'd go to my boss and say, we got to buy this drone. And then, just completely disregard how we're going to use it or how much it was. I was just like, this is cool.
Because it's the coolest
new technology, right? And I had to learn that the better way to approach that would be, hey, I think that we can provide value on this job in this way. This is the tool I like to use to do that.
There you go.
So I had to approach it differently.
Yeah, what do you think of AI, and what do you think the impact on our industry is going to be?
I think AI, people people use AI way too much. The word, it's really more machine learning. A lot of the things people use AI for, everybody has their own AI tool, but really artificial intelligence is a whole different conversation from machine learning. And a lot of what folks are using that they call AI is just expedited task efficiency gains. So they'll have a computer program look through algorithmically different ways to build things, for example. Generative design, all these different things. Count, they have AI tools for pre-construction now, like Toggle, that can count things quickly for you, which is one that we use. But all that's really doing is going through and finding things for you to speed things up. And,
sure.
Which is still super helpful and useful. I just don't really know that I'd call it AI, per se. I've seen AI, artificial intelligence in my mind is really when the computer is thinking and actually doing things. Right now, like ChatGPT and all these tools, all they're really doing is searching for information that already exists.
Right, and getting it to you more
and just getting it to you faster and in a better way that's more assimilable.
So general AI, we're not there yet, but
it's going to get there at some point.
Optimistic? Are we going to be in a Matrix Terminator scenario?
We might be there already.
Oh.
We could be in a simulation right now.
Maybe so, where everyone is driving a black SUV.
I heard it.
It seems quite possible.
I read something the other day about you never see your neighbors taking groceries inside their house.
That is true.
You've heard this thing?
I have.
The concept of that, and that's because they're irrelevant to you, right? And it's not something you'd want to know from your simulation.
Right.
So you never see your neighbors bringing in groceries. And I was like, that's true.
That is
I've
true.
never actually seen my neighbors
so
bring in groceries.
they didn't bother to program for it.
Right. And then once you do see them, then they're part of your, they're like an associated member of your sim. But who knows? I mean, I think that AI is going to it's going to continue to evolve. There's so much influence and interest in it right now. You got all these different companies like MindJourney and Loom AI and ChatGPT all focused on ways to enhance it and make it better and just teaching itself. And the more that it learns, the more data that it has to crunch, the better it's going to get at doing things, the faster it's going to be. I think it's going to remove a lot of the mundane stuff that people do.
Right.
I don't think it's going to replace people in a lot of ways. I think it'll remove a lot of the tasks that really clog up people's day. So hopefully it just removes a lot of that unnecessary waste of time for them, so they can focus on things that actually matter that AI and computers can't do, like actually build buildings.
Yeah, right? No, absolutely. I think that's the takeaway I'm getting from most of my guests is that we don't really know what the impact will be. It'll take longer than we expect, but you got to prepare for whatever may come and be willing to be open-minded and upskill and be ready to embrace this and be more prepared to use these tools than to kind of run and hide or try to suppress it.
Well, a lot of folks get upset because they think it's going to take jobs, just like everything else. I mean, just like any machine out there, it's going to replace jobs, but it's jobs that, maybe people you could actually train people to be more skilled in other ways that computers can't do things or robots can't do things. And so that allows those folks to evolve to better tools and tasks.
Yeah, I've been using this quote. I think it's a Bill Gates quote. We always overestimate what will happen technological advancement-wise in the next 2 years and underestimate what will change in the next 10. And I think about the iPhone and the way that short term didn't think like it was going to be a big deal, and then look back 10 years, it's like, wow.
It's changed everything.
Changed the world.
BlackBerry was a thing back 10 years ago.
I was holding on to my BlackBerry for far too long, that's for sure. All right, well, I appreciate you driving around with me. As we get close to your destination, David, I always like to offer some practical advice to my listeners. They're out there, many in the world of FM, operations, maintenance. They're wondering, how can I prepare myself for what comes next? What advice would you give to my audience as we head into the future of the built environment?
I am subscribed to a lot of influx of information, whether that's LinkedIn, it's constantly hitting me with things. I'm subscribed to lots of different newsletters, publications, and there's a constant influx of just options and things that are arising, new softwares, new technology that's popping up. So I try to keep a finger on the pulse of the industry and kind of see what's new and hot out there, and just every day kind of filter through it and figure out, does this make sense to me? And I think that all of your listeners can kind of take that, but don't get overwhelmed by it, because it's very easy to get overwhelmed by how much is out there. You got to figure out your own way to filter through it and find what's useful to you, and don't just get sucked into the 75 new things that popped up today. Because that's very easy to do too. You spend your whole day doing that. You have to figure out a way to sift through it, and then figure out a way to give that litmus test to see if it's actually worthwhile and worth your time. It's going to save you time and money. Whether that's, again, a software or a tool or whatever industry you're in. you have to figure out a way to sift through it all and find what's going to be most advantageous to you and help you do your job better.
Great.
Because that's, it's one of my main jobs is trying to figure out new tools to help us build better, right? And so I'm constantly doing that and sifting through all these different options and ways to build things better.
What is the value? I love it.
What is the true value to what you actually do? And you only know that, right? That's it's different for everybody. I've read leadership books over the years at different stages of my career, and I take something different each time because I'm in different roles.
Yeah, your perspective changes, and therefore the value proposition changes.
So everyone's going to look at a software or a technology differently because they want to see, well, how is this actually going to impact me and what I do? Is this going to make my life easier?
Yeah, that's really well said. So you've obviously shared a lot of content. I've seen a lot of it. How did you build up such a huge following on LinkedIn?
I mean, honestly, just over the years, I started just adding folks that I found interesting personally. And that just kind of expanded. And I started making posts about just things that I was doing, realized that people were interested in not just what products are coming out, but like how people are actually using them. And, I did it because I was just interested in sharing what I learned. And I found that people really navigated to and reflected well to that and latched onto that. And so I've had some posts with 200,000 plus impressions on it, which
it's amazing.
I'm not sure if that's a lot or a little, but
I think it's a lot.
But,
good stuff.
But at the end of the day, it's reaching people, and like, if I can, not everybody agrees with what I'm doing, and that's fine. You're not going to
start a conversation, right?
But honestly, that's more what I like, because then people will come back and say, well, I disagree. This is why I like this, or that technology won't do that, and I can get into a dialogue with folks, because then I get to learn selfishly, because I want to know what's out there too, because I can't possibly know everything. And so the more I post things, people will disagree with me, and I get to learn and evolve and change the way I do how I leverage technology. So
I found it really interesting that you're putting out some great stuff. I've been enjoying watching and learning and reading, and everybody follow David Epps on LinkedIn if you're not already. All right, David, I think this is it. I appreciate you taking a little ride with me today.
Absolutely.
Great conversation. Hope to continue learning from you. Thanks for taking time.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Be on the show.
Have a
great rest of your day.
Cheers.